Welcome back to another Gnostic Chat, where we dive into the esoteric world and explore ideas that help us create a brighter future. I'm your host, James, also known as the Gnostic Chef, and I'm thrilled to have with us Julian here to have another enlightened journey. Today, we tackle the topic that is both crucial and innovative for the planet's future, and this is plastic into fuel. We'll unveil the science behind it and discuss the potential for waste management and energy production. But as always, we always dive into it deeper, mystical aspects of this process and how it aligns with a broader understanding of the universe. On Gnostic Chats, we believe in the power of the mind and the importance of exploring our consciousness. We'll explore how innovative technologies like plastic to fuel conversions not only address environmental challenges but also reflect the transformative power of human thought and ingenuity. So sit back, relax, open your mind, and embark on a fascinating exploration. Let's uncover the mysteries of the world together and find inspiration to shape a better tomorrow. Sure. All right, welcome back to another Gnostic Chat. Today I've brought in Julian there from NatureJab, which is taking plastic and converting it straight back into its original source, which would be a form of crude oil that he's then using and refining and taking it to the next level, all in his backyard. He's got a fantastic channel over there on YouTube that you can go and visit and get a rundown of everything that he has to offer. But today, we're here to ask him a few things about his process and where he thinks it might lead for the future. And with that, I have Julian. So, Julian, what do you think? What do you think this actually would entail? This pyrolysis? What is pyrolysis? How can we use it in the future, and why aren't we using it now?
So pyrolysis is a thermal degradation of an organic material in the absence of oxygen. So what does that mean? Well, that means you're taking a material that can break down or that can burn, something organic, and you're putting it in a chamber where you're providing heat to it without air being present. So unlike a fire, which needs air or oxygen to exist, in this process, we're removing the oxygen and air. And so instead of a material burning, catching on fire, making smoke and a flame, it actually ends up breaking down on a chemical level to its basic constituent building blocks, which for all organic materials ends up being fuels.
Yeah, and for the crude plastic, what are you saying is you're pitting the environment to a zero oxygen level so that way none of the plastic is able to burn, and you add carbon into the plastic itself because the microwave is not going to be able to affect the plastic, if I'm correct. So that's why you're introducing the carbon. Is this the way it goes?
Absolutely. So microplastic has a low dielectric loss, and what that means is microwaves are essentially going to just shoot right through it like it's not there. It's microwave transparent. And what you do is you put something in there, you mix the plastic with a material that's called a microwave susceptor, a material with a high dielectric loss, which means that microwaves not only, heat it, but they go in there and then it causes rapid heating. I'm talking over 2000 degrees Fahrenheit at certain flash spots. And that heat from that material is going to transfer to the plastic. And when the plastic breaks down, it turns into carbon. So then it helps break down more plastic under the microwave heating, because I perform particularly microwave pyrolysis, which is different from traditional pyrolysis, because with microwave pyrolysis, where we're using microwaves, in traditional pyrolysis, you can use any form of heat to, in the absence of oxygen, to break down an organic material. The most common methods are using a flame or using electric heating elements. Now, microwaves are different because not only do microwaves provide heat, but they heat things differently. So microwaves heat from the inside out, while traditional will heat from the outside in. So not only do you have a lot more energy efficiency because you're not having to heat your container to heat the plastic, you're heating the plastic from the inside out, but also microwaves, due to their volumetric heating or heating from the inside out, it actually changes the properties of some of the products you get from this machine.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so you're saying traditionally though they haven't been using microwaves in any like research before? Do you think this is is this the new thing that you're bringing to pyrolysis, or is this something they've looked over? Like, what do you think that is with the microwave tech? Like, if you're saying that it's used already, is this why they don't use it in a larger scale? Is because they don't feel like they can make it worth the time or money?
So microwave pyrolysis has been studied since the 1900s, right? There are reactors and projects that pop up every year with microwave pyrolysis. However, it has not been seen being done on a backyard scale like I'm doing it, or a smaller lab scale. It's mostly been seen at either a pretty big scale, like a pilot plant level, but even those are kind of more proposed things than existing plants you could walk into. But it's mostly been seen at a very, very small professional lab level, specifically tailored for scientific research papers, a level that is so small that even though the results of it are good, it's unusable because they're doing it in a lab grade microwave in a small glass vial. Like the procedure is so small that you could never, actually process any real amount of plastic waste with how they've been doing it. But they've been doing it for research to figure out how it's been done. So I particularly did not invent it. And I also am not introducing microwave pyrolysis as a new technology I found. However, I am introducing it in a new way that hasn't been seen before, which is doing it at a scale that's not that super small scientific scale, but also not that super big industrial $1 million funded scale either. I'm doing it kind of in between and building my way up bigger and bigger because I believe that doing it this way, I'll be able to see. Oh, my bad. My
Oh,
camera
you're all
turned
right.
off.
No, you're
There we
okay.
go. I believe I'll be able to see as I'm building up flaws, things that can be done better, and I just keep improving. So by the time I get it big, all the advantages that come from using the microwaves is just going to be exemplified at that big level.
That little setup that you've built in your backyard is quite a an interesting looking machine there. And also looks like it could have cost a good amount of money. Has this all been crowdfunded, or have you been able to make a lot of the funds up for yourself? Like, how's that working out? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but it does look like that system costs quite a bit of money.
Yeah, so I've this is my fifth machine I've built now, right? My past four machines I have built completely out of my own pocket. Mark 4.5 has been completely crowdfunded. Mark 4.5 is the most expensive one. My previous machine was about $10,000. Right now, the machine is still incomplete, but has already costed 25,000 up to this point. It's looking like it's gonna come out to probably about 35 to 40,000 total. And a lot of this is because there's so much research being done to it. It's not about the
Hmm.
maximizing cost efficiency right now. It's about figuring out what needs to be done. One of the biggest things I've done to this process in my latest machine is I've actually transitioned from just microwave pyrolysis to vacuum microwave pyrolysis. And transitioning to vacuum microwave pyrolysis with Mark 4.5 has completely changed the game. And it actually makes this even more innovative because there have been some microwave pyrolysis plants at a semi-big, maybe a little bit bigger scale, but there has not been any vacuum microwave pyrolysis plants, period.
The importance of that, though, the vacuuming, the keeping it under a vacuum, is this for safety, or what's the big importance of that?
Well, the vacuum does add some safety features because the thing about a vacuum is it's not building up a whole bunch of pressure. It's not a bomb anymore. See, before, if you have a piece of metal or anything enclosed that builds up pressure, it has a risk of exploding. In fact, the injury I had was from a depressurization in a different system, a distiller, which is a separate machine. Um, when you have it under vacuum, it's the exact opposite of built up pressure. It's pressure being sucked in. So in the event of a leak or something, it's not gonna blow up. It's actually gonna suck in air, and then with the proper procedures in place, that could actually be made completely inert. So it sucks in air, and that's it. Everything turns off, and everything is safe. Unlike an explosion, it doesn't matter what safety procedure you have. If the thing blows up, you're getting blown up with it.
Yeah, there's no
So
getting
the
around it.
vacuum, the vacuum does help with safety, but that's actually not the biggest advantage at all. It doesn't even come close to it. The biggest advantage to a vacuum is that when you have something in a vacuum, when it's under uh, less than atmospheric pressure, what happens is the boiling point of materials actually is decreased. And what that means is it takes less heat to make something break down or boil under heat than normal. So, for example, water. You put, we know the boiling point of water is 212 degrees, right? If we were to put water in a vacuum, a perfect vacuum, let's say it get down to half of that, right? So now you only need to put in half the amount of energy to heat it than you had to before when you had it at normal pressure. So putting it under vacuum actually increases the efficiency instantly of this whole process. And another thing it does is it actually um further changes the products and the quality of the products you get out when it's under vacuum as well. Because when it's under vacuum, well, here's something that happens, right? Plastic goes in there, microwaves break it down, it forms a vapor. That vapor has to leave the machine. And as it's leaving the machine, the residual heat or maybe some oils and other things might end up affecting that vapor and change it again before it leaves the machine. Well, when the machine is under vacuum, those vapors are constantly being sucked out. So it lets us get these vapors in a more in their more original form, you could say. Right. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending upon what you want to do. But the good thing is this, though, it will give me consistent results of what my vapors are. So I can know what I need to do with them, how I need to process them, right? It gives us more consistency. It saves energy. It's safer. And it is an innovation in the field because that, especially vacuum microwave pyrolysis plants or even vacuum microwave pyrolysis is extremely rare.
Yeah, that's awesome. So they like when you reach certain temperatures, I'm sure certain chemicals are released by that exact temperature, and then through your distilling, you're able to then fraction it and collect certain vapor. I'm like kind of seeing this in my head a little, or trying to at least. And so you're able to collect specific vapor because you're able to get specific temperatures, right? It's like the
Right,
idea the chemicals have different levels of heat that it takes for those things to evaporate. So that's
right.
awesome that you're able to control it easier through that a vacuum. And then yeah, the just the idea though, I'm like, can it like you said it's kind of a pricey project, but like how much fuel do you think you could provide for it, using that machine you have?
Well, the last run I did before I was injured, I put in 10 pounds of plastic. I got 2 liters of fuel out of that. Now, there are a lot of things I could have improved to get me even more, but the idea is this right here. Here's the biggest improvement to the machine, why it's not complete. The machine is currently operating as a batch machine. I like to do this analogy. Batch versus continuous, okay? I'll ask you a question as a matter of fact. Tell me what is more efficient, okay? Let's say you want to cook 3 trays of cookies, right? What's more efficient? You put in 1 tray of cookies, that's done, then put in another tray of cookies, that's done, then put another one. Or you put in 1 tray of cookies, let the whole oven cool down, then reheat, then put in another tray, let it cool down, reheat, then put in another tray. What's more efficient with energy?
To do the consecutive putting in of batches. Yeah. Yeah. To
Continuous.
continuously changing
Right.
the, yeah.
So that is what has been my struggle because to make a machine that's under pressure, whether that's positive pressure or negative pressure, vacuum, to make a machine like that, especially in a backyard, handmade, continuous, is a feat of engineering because there's already enough risks to do making something continuous under these types of pressures and atmospheres and toxic products potentially can be extremely dangerous, but it's a worthwhile gambit because for me, I've been doing it as a batch. I've been turning off the oven every time I want to put another tray of cookies in. I've been limiting my efficiency by tons, right? Such a
Yeah.
waste of energy to let it cool down just to have to heat back up. But
Right.
if once I make this machine continuous and I can load in plastic while it's already hot, I don't have to put in as much energy input to break down the same amount of plastic, and it's under vacuum, so it takes less heat anyway. It's going to boost the efficiency by amazing amounts. And on top of that, going back to what you asked originally, fuel production. It will not matter if it takes 10 pounds of plastic to make 1 gallon. It won't matter if it takes 100 pounds because I can keep loading it in until I
Right.
get as much as I want. So it's going to be huge. And people all the time do ask me things for specifics like efficiency
Mhm.
or energy consumption or the products I make, like the composition. I keep telling everybody, you have to wait until the machine is done, until it's continuous. Because once it's continuous, we want to have variables changing. See, with pyrolysis, so many things can change the variables. I already told you that us putting a microwave, using microwaves over regular heating, changes how some of the products form. Then you make it under vacuum, that changes how some of the products form. But making it continuous does the same thing, because every time you load in new plastic, the temperature of the machine would change.
Mhm.
So I have to truly have the machine complete before we can really say the products coming out, and especially efficiency, because that just will completely change the game once it's continuous.
Right. Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, the baker's never going to keep up with product of demand or the demand if they're going to be turning off their oven every batch of cookies. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be a very, very ineffective cookie shop. The you've used your refined oil or gases inside of vehicle, haven't you?
I have. I've used them in every type of engine except the jet engine. So I've used the gasoline product in multiple types of gasoline engines, two-stroke and four-stroke. The diesel product in two different types of diesel engines, a small go-kart engine, and then an actual truck engine.
Yeah, that's awesome. The injury that you're talking about, that incident with the explosion on your collection chamber there, I was reading in your comments and it was like I was getting, it was funny some of them, but then there was like it was funny, some of the immediate reactions were like, oh, this was the government, and then like a couple other ones, a lot of ideas of the government wanting to keep this away from the public. Do you think that's at all any true to that?
I don't believe there's any truth to that, because I have learned about this process through reading research papers from universities all over the world. I don't think that there is a any type of power trying to prevent this technology out there. There are already pyrolysis plants. I do think, however, I do truly believe there has been a suppression of this technology. And I say that because even though this technology of pyrolysis has literally been around forever, forever, I'm telling you, um, if you say that word pyrolysis, you say the word to somebody just randomly, they're not gonna know what you're saying. Most people didn't even know that plastic come from crude oil. It comes from crude oil, right? They don't even know it's a petroleum products. They don't even know you can make fuel out of it. I see a lot of comments, people saying this isn't even real. I'm like, well, that's the
Yeah,
furthest coming from the truth, because this is something that's been around for since the day plastic was invented. Since
yeah,
before that,
right.
pyrolysis has been around. So I do truly believe, like, how come we're taught other things that may not be implemented or may not be super popular, like maybe nuclear energy. We're taught that in school, right? Over
Hmm.
and over again. Why are we not taught about pyrolysis, right? So I do
Right.
think there might be some type of suppression on it, but I don't think there's any risk to like me or my life or
Right.
anything with me just doing it. I think the biggest risk, I think this is the true risk that could, make some type of higher power upset, is the idea of breaking the paradigm of you need a big government or governing body to help you build something. You need a degree to build something. I think that that's the real thing that gets you in trouble, when you start to make people's mindsets and their perspectives on their limitations in their mind. You start to break their paradigms. And I do think that if there was anything I'm at risk for, it's that, because if there's one thing that's for certain, um, to be 20 years old and you're building this device in a backyard, which most people without a chemical degree wouldn't even touch, right? That
Mhm.
does certainly break paradigms, because it makes people start to think, like, wait a minute, why weren't we told about this? Why did it take somebody 20 years old to do this? Why aren't these big companies doing? People start to
Hmm.
ask too many questions, and I think that can get you in trouble.
Right.
But I try to stay
No,
on their good side.
I like that response. Yeah, it totally rings more true to me too. Just the idea that you broke down that, yeah, the suppression of things just could be as simple as a person was trying to remain rich, So if they were to be able to put some money to something to make it disappear for a little while, which we know that all goes on. So yeah, that would make much more clerical
Yeah,
sense to me. Yeah.
absolutely. And it could be completely political too. Kind of like
Yeah.
how why nuclear reactors aren't used, even though they are literally proven to be the cleanest energy we can get right now, even
Mm.
cleaner than solar or wind. It could be a pure political reason. It could be a pure monetary reason. I don't really know why it's been suppressed, but to just look at all the different types of sciences that we are taught in school, and the fact that we're not, this I remember one time I was on a live stream with a guy that was in university for chemical engineering. I asked him, "Did you guys learn about pyrolysis?" He said, "We just glanced over it for like a day or two." I'm like,
Yeah,
"What? Really?"
right. Yeah, it's
But
totally
you learn
interesting.
distillation, but not pyrolysis, which are both very similar things. It's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, the pyrolysis forever, the alchemist used the fire for purification, and like pyros, that's the root there is fire. And then yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure. I'd never heard of it until I ran across your channel and I've, you know, seen plant extractions of oils. It's like reminds me it's similar in the way that you are breaking it down with a solvent instead of a solvent, you're using a microwave, and then you still distill off of each little fraction of whatever you're looking for in that plant. But so it's similar in nature, but totally different in operation. The thing about pyrolysis is that it seems like something, if you had enough equipment, that you could have one in your neighborhood, and then your neighborhood could be provided with some fuel or something, like it's the idea of big, like you said, the government wanting to just be there, but then we allow the government to take over everything that we do and demand that we have credit or certifications or anything to even be able to build something like that. But I'm taking it to the idea of even growing your own food, like you don't have to depend on a large body of government to provide you with food. You can grow it in your backyard. So that's where I was going with
Right.
that.
Yeah, and
Then,
you know what? It's amazing you say that because that's how I started getting into this. Because
it,
I started a garden because I wanted to be more self-sufficient because I didn't want my food completely reliant on a governing body. And getting into gardening, I found out about composting. What do you do with all your waste? You compost it to make the fertilizer to feed your garden. And then, I kept looking into different types of ways you could use waste. There's really no waste in gardening, right?
yeah,
You have wood waste, you can just, heat for your home. And I'm
yeah.
like, okay, we have the solutions for all these types of waste we can do right here at home. What about plastic waste? It's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
all the garden mulch and stuff comes in, and then I started looking up that with the idea of self sufficiency. Then I found pyrolysis, and I'm like, well, that's perfect because guess what? What if it's the end of the world, off grid or something, and I need to make fuel for my car? Because we always been told the only way to get fuel is from overseas or from these
hmm
big companies, Shell and stuff. But what about if you could make a reactor like this in your backyard, put plastic waste in, which we know will always be around, and make your own fuel to run your car if there was no gas station available, right? Because previously before that, there's literally no other way. Maybe biodiesel, I guess, but there's really no other way to make your own fuel.
Yeah. And that's where my mind was going with it too. The If you were to need it, I'm in the same kind of category where it was like your chemicals or your your nutrient or fertilizer to put into your garden is all expensive. So for me, I went and found this technique from the Korean farming, and it just has all these different recipes of just simple things at home that you can take and extract calcium soluble calcium and potassium, all the different little nutrients that you need. And then it was all from things that I had at my house, and it was no longer a
Yep.
need for me to go purchase anything from anyone. I could just make all those things now. So I had the same type of ideas there. Didn't they use trash to get that car going and Back to the Future?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the truth of the matter is this, right? Everybody's so obsessed about the future and getting flying cars or going to Mars and all this type of thing. Just keep building and building more and more stuff. But nobody's over here thinking about, well, the more we build, the more waste there's going to be. And if we're going to have any future that's not going to look like Wally, we have to have some type of thing in place that is just as technological as all of our modern technology to deal with the waste. We're developing all these phones every year, all these electric cars with batteries every year, all these windmills, all these things, and all this plastic, and we have yet to master getting rid of it. You know how many windmill blades end up just being taken to landfills all the
Yeah,
time? Like
it's like a
it's
10-year
insane.
thing, right? I think I've heard that it's only like they only last for 10 years or something. And the price that it costs is like a 15-year, I forget how they broke it down, but they made it sound like as though you're losing a lot of money just by putting a windmill up.
Yeah, and you know that has been the issue. We have not invested in waste renewal energy or waste renewal technologies as much as we have invested in consumerism technologies, right? I don't think that's right because that's literally what Wally was. They had to go to space because they polluted the Earth so much because they didn't bother trying to figure out. And for me, it's one thing if it's just like trash is trash, but studying what I study and knowing what I know, trash is not trash. Trash is literally energy. Trash is literally everything that like you said, you take your food waste or your garden waste, and there's every mineral that your plant needs right there. And that's the same with everything we've ever created. Everything that we need to build new stuff is right there in the trash we throw away. We just throw it in a landfill and bury it, hoping that we'll never run out of space.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, like I usually use that as reference to all things that are here, like we just recreate it, we just reconstitute it. We're not really like inventing anything. It's all just pieces of the puzzle that are here that you're finally putting together to see an image. And
Right.
yeah, so it's totally yeah, like where do people think plastic comes from? Like they're like, well, it never breaks down. I'm like, well, obviously it would have to eventually, like just by the nature of the earth, that things they don't,
Yep.
yeah, they don't stick around very long. Only things like gold and silver are the only things that really don't, or gold is specifically, but don't really have anything happen to them. But yeah, it's definitely fascinating people's trains of thought. Everything being either a psyop or you being a scam. I've seen that in your chats before or your comments where people are like, "This is a scam," and I'm like, "What? Which part? Like which part?" I have people say that about my food. They'll say, "This looks disgusting," and I'm like, "Which part? The eggs or the bacon?" Like it's eggs and bacon. Like which part are you talking about?
I never understood that. I could understand a lot of other critiques. Like, there's a lot of people that make the critique, like, "Oh, this has already been done. Like, this isn't anything new." And
Hmm.
I guess people they say that because a lot of people will say like that sentence, like, "This isn't anything new," as if I said I invented it, even though I never have a video ever where I
Yeah.
said I invented it. But I can understand that more. But then when people say it's a scam, I never understood that because um well, I never sold anybody anything, right? In order to be a scammer, to sell somebody something, and I've never sold a single product. Um, I've never even asked for donations. It's always been a thing where it's like I just put it up there. I'm like, if you want to donate and contribute, you see the work I'm doing. I show you what I buy. You see it being built. Then more power to you. Do it or don't do it. I'm gonna continue building either way. And I gotta thank everybody that has shown so much love because they've with the crowdfunding, this project has definitely been taken to the next level, and it's going to open the door for me to get some real funding, like grants and such. But yeah, I never understood that argument. I think that the truth of the matter is this, right? On the internet, people, you know, people can say whatever they want and get away with it. And there's so many people that say things and will just type and comment and comment. But then when I'm on a live stream and they come up, the energy is completely
Quiet.
different. They're
Hmm.
like quiet. Yeah, I'm like, why
Hmm.
don't you speak the same way you were speaking in the comments? They can't. They smile on their face and they're trying to act like they're a friend, my friend or something. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay. They go right back to the comments acting the same way. So the truth is, I think that a lot of the critiques that you could tell are more like emotional based and logical based. Like, oh wait, this guy might actually be producing this. Maybe this isn't a good technology. The more emotional comments, like, oh, this is a scam or
Hmm.
whatever. I think that could be stemmed in some type of insecurity.
Yeah, I know it's
Um,
the must be nice. It's the I wish I had something as cool as this to show the world. They're the charlatan. They're the ones that are the charlatans that are in your comments calling you the scam artist are usually the type of people that would go and try and sell you whatever it was.
yeah, that's the funny thing, right? Yeah, it's as within, so without, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny how those always ring true. Do you see any future prospects with pyrolysis? Do you see just with some of this information that you're bringing out, do you see a future in it?
Yeah, I do see a future. I think that, it's been researched for so long, and that's a big plus. There when it comes down to it, the big thing about pyrolysis is, you're what you're putting in the machine, because that's going to dictate what you're getting out. And I started this project with the idea of dealing with the ocean plastics and having a form of getting rid of plastics does not make microplastics and can handle any type of plastic, right? But
Mhm.
then with that comes, okay, if you're putting a mix of all types of plastic in your machine, you need to have ways of dealing with any products that come out on the back end that may not be, environmentally helpful, or it could be a harm to health.
Mhm.
So I think with pyrolysis, it's hard to tell, because as I keep building this machine, I keep figuring out new things, new eureka moments that completely change the whole system, that
Mhm.
make it so much and solve so many problems. Like I said, when I implemented the vacuum, that
Right.
completely changes the process now. It's not the same as pyrolysis. It's not the same as microwave pyrolysis. Vacuum microwave pyrolysis is its own niche. And I feel like something's gonna happen along the way of me continuing to build these machines that just completely shifts the whole thing again for the better, and it might not even be considered pyrolysis anymore, because I just always keep my mind open to the next step, whatever that looks like, as long as the goal is being met of getting rid of plastics and getting rid of microplastics and creating value products out. I really don't care what it ends up being, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That I was just thinking as you were talking about you collecting different plastics, I'd be like, yeah, that's going to be hard. I just relate with cooking always, so let me bring one in. If I was to just bring in like whatever 8 different flours and then trying to make sourdough bread or something like that, if I had 8 different ingredients that are similar in a way, but then put them all together and try to recreate the same bread every time, it's probably going to be quite a
Yeah,
learning curve. Yeah. So
absolutely.
I could see how that could be definitely one of those things that'll make it more just more time to investigate. And then
Absolutely.
what about like long term, like because if we were all to collect our plastics and start doing this, do you think in like a long term impact it could actually be beneficial in some fashion to where like I was thinking, like it was like groups of community or whatever that are finally gone back together again, and they're all producing their own food, and then you've got you at the end of the block that's got some fuel, or it's like almost as if we're going back to this barter trading system. It seems like the way that the money it keeps just going up, we're finding new ways of communicating and exchanging value. This YouTube platforms is a great version of that, right? You're exchanging a different currency. Your currency is um, hope and aspiration, like something to look forward to. And then, so of course, why would not somebody donate to something like that? I mean, you're going to buy your coffee tomorrow to get you energy to be motivated. And stuff like this, in my honest opinion, is what motivates me. This is why I created the channel, was because I was trying to bring food for thought alongside of some of the cooking that I do, just based on it being entertainment value there. And then, of course, the food for thought was what I really wanted to do. And so that's what spurred this whole channel to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think is the most important, because the truth is, you can do something that's impactful, but that's numbered, right? What you actually built is purely material, and its impact is purely based on how long it exists, how long it's there. But the true power of anything you do is in the energy that it gives to other people, the whether that is inspiration
Mhm.
or just that's the true impact of it, the influence it gives to other people. So that's my
Right.
goal above all else, to inspire.
Right. Yeah. And you truly do like the way you talk. I mean, your demeanor while you were injured was fantastic. I mean, I felt bad for you, but at the same time, I could tell you were doing good. I don't know if that is a way of making it sound like I'm not, poking at you or nothing, but you just seem to have handled it so well. Your overall, I'm sure it might have been a lot different in some cases just based on watching those injuries. I mean, brutal, brutal, brutal. But you were talking about the waste. So you said that you've got waste and have you seen how they use like mushrooms and stuff to clear up soil and stuff? Do
I
you think
have.
that, yeah, do you think that there's a chance that we just haven't discovered like a plant or plants, maybe mushroom varieties of stuff that can just like we could eventually just be like basically feeding them this toxic stuff, like what do you think of that?
I think that plants, fungi, or bacteria, or mushrooms as well. I guess those are fungi.
Yeah.
Um, they're gonna be our only hope at microplastics. Here's the truth. We produce too many plastics for any type of bacteria, mold, fungi, plant to get rid of the big boys. We have to get the big bottles out of the ocean. We have to get the big chunks. But no matter how you put it, we cannot get nets to capture those microplastics that are everywhere. So there is an organism out there that is evolving or adapting, natural selection, getting where it needs to be to eat this plastic and stuff.
Hmm.
The mealworms already can eat styrofoam and this stuff. It's getting there, and that's going to be our only hope at getting rid of these microplastics because some of them are too small for you to even see with your eye. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, some of that stuff's ending up inside the fish's flesh, like like I've seen all kinds of different versions of I like to follow people that do mycology and zooming in on pieces of meat that have plastic in it, and I don't know how much some of these images are could even be doctored. So there's a lot of stuff on the internet that you have to take with a grain of salt. But I do know the one channel I'm speaking of, doesn't seem to be putting out, he doesn't seem to be a charlatan, as if he's selling me something. He just seems as though he's having fun with his toy, and his toy is a microscope, and yeah, so I think a part of life is imagination, or I think a good portion of life is imagination, since we all basically are hallucinating our realities. And so imitation and imagination go hand in hand, and we all try to imitate each other. It's just which ones are we chasing after?
yeah,
And
right.
so I do enjoy your presence in on the YouTube streets. I just thought I'd say that.
Well, thank you. And you know what? You said something earlier that's very true. You said, like everything that's here is here, like the earth.
Mm,
And that brings me to another point. Plastic is just made from crude oil. Crude oil comes from earth. So, the truth of the matter is plastic is the biggest threat to us, human civilization. Earth, she will be fine. She has survived much worse than some plastic bottles. It's more of we need to respect the beauty of nature we have and we need to clean up our mess, right? And
mhm.
here's a catch that most people don't think about. Because as I said, there's so many microplastics that an organism will evolve to destroy plastic. But what people aren't thinking about is when that happens, that same organism that's out there eating all the ocean plastics is going to actually ruin plastics because now you have a plastic
Oh,
Tupperware
right.
container. Now it's going to start breaking down. So we're
Hmm.
actually kind of shot ourselves in the foot by being so irresponsible because the magic of plastic, it never breaking down and being so
Hmm.
good. Now your Coca-Cola bottles left on the shelf are
Yeah,
gonna start to be
that's
eaten up by
crazy.
some type of, but
Yeah.
that's the cycle of nature. We did it to
Hmm.
ourselves by putting, because plastic is a hydrocarbon with a very long hydrocarbon chain. That chain is what stops bacteria and fungi from being able to break it down. So when an organism is able to evolve to be able to break down that super long chain, it could break down anything.
Hmm.
And that includes the things we don't want it to break down.
Right.
So that's going to
Yeah.
be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, so we do that with everything, antibiotics is just like that same thing where you take too much, you do too much, and then your body's gonna not respond the same. Earth is a
Yeah.
living body. I think of it as a living entity, a living being. And yeah, she's gonna figure out how to fix her little problem if it is one. But
Yeah.
what about the fact, like you were talking about like let's talk about the public perception a little bit more about how, I mean, nobody has it, so there's no public perception of even converting plastic back into something else. They just see it as that forever thing that we were just stuck with now. And do you think that that simple thought is what keeps people like tied into it? Just the idea of it never being able to be broken down? Because
Yes.
if you could show them that you are doing that, that's that paradigm shift that you were talking about, right? So,
Yes.
right, yeah. So it's just so interesting that the public perception of plastic is like, obviously there's a lot of dangers, right? BPAs and all the other different things that can leach out into water and all this other stuff, but they just see it as like this, I don't know, this freaking Ubermensch, this juggernaut of like chemical compound, and it's really
Yeah.
not all that.
And that's all we've ever been told. Like I said, people haven't even been told that it comes from crude oil. And that to me is a red flag. Like why are we not even told what it comes from? We're told that cardboard comes from wood, paper comes from trees, but the plastic, we don't even know where it comes from. And I can't say whether or not it's on purpose, but it is very suspicious to me that that is the big push, the agenda that we push on everybody in the whole world everywhere. It's just like you go anywhere, tell somebody about plastic in the ocean, they're like, yeah, it's just for a forever horrible thing. But then if you know that it has fuel in it, if you know what it's made of, any scientist, they'll tell you right away, like, it's not this impossible thing. It's just that we have not done what needed to be done. And the political power of collective conscious of people, it
Mhm.
ultimately drives anything to happen in this world. So that for some reason, these people at the top or these companies at the top or whatever, they are enjoying the plastic in the environment
Mhm.
because if they didn't like it, they would change the narrative to let's let's be solution oriented instead of pessimistic, very doom and gloom. Like
Mhm.
all you ever see and hear about is how dark the future is for our whole planet because of the plastic. When there are people that are going out collecting it, and there are methods like pyrolysis to deal with it, but those are so rare to hear about, right?
Mhm.
And some people might say, well, the negative is speaks louder than the positive, but that's not true. And I proved that because I'm doing it, doing the positive, doing the solution, and it's going viral over and over again. People want it,
Mhm.
but it's not being pushed because those at the top don't want it for whatever reason it may be.
Yeah. I do agree with you, although I see this weird, interesting push to where it seems like now everything that was hidden is now just being thrown out, like just like crazy style of new information, just like inundated all the time with all these different things, and they call it the information age now. And I keep compassionating the idea of it almost not being beneficial in some fashion for everyone to have all this information, because then they start discrediting things or get quick to cutting ideas out of their head as dismissing them because it doesn't fit their frame of reality. And then that's probably another portion of where those people that call you a scam artist and all that different stuff comes from, is because they're just so locked into a version, and then you're showing them something else. It's the paradigm
Mm,
shift again. I'm realizing that we're just talking
yeah,
about the same thing, the paradigm changing their reality. And then what I like to think of it as the Mr. like the what's his name? Mr. Smith from the Matrix,
yeah,
his job was to jump into the bodies once the body was seeing something that would break the matrix, and then he would get rid of it. And I
right,
feel like that's kind of what's happening in this case, is their reality that they're used to is now being challenged, so they have
right,
a Mr. Smith come in to get rid of that object because they don't see it fit for this world. And
absolutely.
yeah, so there's a lot of agents out there, and we just gotta watch out for
And
them.
look, even beyond agents in the Matrix, they also said some people are so tied into the Matrix they will fight to stay in it.
Yeah.
So, it's just conditioning and programming because the idea goes so much deeper than plastic to energy. And that's what we're talking about with the paradigm shift. The idea is ultimately liberation. The
Hmm.
idea is we don't have to go to war. We don't have to fight for these products. We can create these products from our landfills, from our oceans that we polluted to that degree, right? There's enough
Hmm.
plastic. I did the calculation. There's enough plastic just in the oceans alone to run the whole world for like 10 plus years, let alone all the landfills. You put everything together, we don't even need to import the oil, right? If you have the right stuff in place. So, I mean, it changes the mindset. And I think that can be scary
Hmm.
if you're not ready for it.
Yeah. What are some of the, or I don't know if you have any like data on it, but the like cost to, trying to think of the word to, Like how much you get out of, like, let's say a gallon of plastic or whatever, how much fuel, have you done any data on that, on how much you can collect off, like, say, a pound of plastic?
Yeah, so my conversion always is changing as this machines change.
Right.
But according to my last machine, 1 second, let me see. I'll give you an exact number if I
Yeah.
just do this calculation here.
Yeah, because I was kind of wondering about the efficiency and output, like I know you were saying that you don't have like a specific thing quite yet, just based on the fact of the innovations and the evolution of the machine, but just like general
Yeah.
idea of like a
So it's looking like we're getting a gallon. We'll be getting a gallon out of 20 pounds of plastic currently.
20.
With
Nice.
how
Yeah,
it's been, my last run I did, that was about the number because I got half a gallon from 10 pounds, so or 2 liters, and a gallon's about 4 liters. So then that converts to I guess it depends on once again the conversion of everything because
yeah,
you you have the cost to run the machine, of course, right?
right, right.
It's electricity. However, I make a ton of natural gas from the machine. That natural gas can run into a natural gas generator to supplement the electrical cost. And I was
Mhm.
actually going to calculate my natural gas, then I had the injury happen. So
Right.
numbers are still being built, and then these numbers are even more skewed from when it's continuous because the continuous numbers are going to be even better with
Right.
everything.
With that continuous portion that you added to the machine, it's basically um a seal, like where you go in right before you
An
get
airlock.
detox airlock. Thank you. So it's basically an airlock, right? So you're dropping it in, it seals, releases so that you still have, or take out the pressure, release, drop, right?
Yep.
And yeah, man, like who you who raised you, man? What is going on? What where did you even go to like school at all for this type of thing, or just you said it was all self-taught, right?
I only went to school for welding to know how to put the
Welding.
metal together. And that was because I originally intended on being a welder. But no, I didn't go to school for any type of engineering or
Hmm.
chemistry of any sort or physics. It has all been self-taught. And I definitely do see the advantage if I had gone to specifically learn more of the chemistry
Hmm.
side of things. However, I just could not in my mind get over the logical fallacy of knowing, okay, I have the passion and the basic skills to build this thing. Give me 4 years and I'm gonna already have a company built.
Yeah,
If I go to college, university, give me 4 years, I'll just be getting out, going to graduate school, then going for another 2, 3, 4 years. And then finally, after that, getting out. We don't have enough time. Look at how
yeah,
much plastic is in the ocean every year. I got to have this thing. I have to have this machine in every country on earth in less than 10 years. We don't have the time for anything less than that type of rapid, vigorous growth. And
right.
so I just couldn't go to college, unfortunately, because I just saw the scale of the problem and how inefficient that amount of time would have been in compared to knowing that I can build this
Yeah.
because I'll figure it out. The truth is that kind of goes back to what you're saying. We are in the age of information. If you have the passion to learn something, you can learn college level information
Mhm.
right there online for free.
Right. Yeah, it's I always joke with that with the chefs that come out of culinary school, that the only thing that they come out of culinary school with is an attitude, or they don't, they might know how to use their knife a little better, but they really don't gain anything. If they were to have spent 18 months in a kitchen doing it hands on, I think the
Yeah.
value would have been way higher. So
Yeah.
it's just an interesting take, that because you said that it was unfortunate that you couldn't go to college, but I think the only unfortunate thing is that most people would demand that without even looking at the evidence of your work
Yeah.
before, like before judging you at all. They want to see your credential without seeing any type of work. It's so backwards, like it doesn't make much sense.
It does, but that's also a great thing too. The fact that I didn't
True.
go because that's another paradigm shift right there. That's
Hmm.
another thing that breaks the matrix
True,
of what
true.
we've been taught in this formality we've been put into. Go to school, go to college, get out, then do great things. No, if you have an idea, you want to do great things, do it when you want. Doesn't matter what your age is, it doesn't matter what your accreditation is. Of course, don't be stupid. Do your
Right.
research. I wasn't wearing safety equipment when I got blown up. I was being stupid, but
Yeah.
you don't have to go to college to know to wear safety equipment,
Yeah.
right? You can learn these things. You just have to be patient and take time with it. But that it's just it's not like college is a horrible thing, but I just do think that a lot of people are being pushed towards it,
Hmm.
but they don't even know that most people don't really need it, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, especially if you're going to be a history major, because I'm not sure which job that qualifies you for. Yeah, like I don't think you could be much of anything outside this little university. But I do
Right.
appreciate your time, Julian. I don't want to take too much more of it, and it's been a pleasure. I'm hoping many more years of success, and like you said, in 10 years, having these machines in 10 different countries, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great speaking with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. And then I'll keep an eye on you and maybe have some other interesting things to bring back on to the channel. So I hope that maybe in our future we can have another conversation.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you so much, man.
All
You
right,
stay
Julian.
blessed.
You as well. Thank you, sir.